Is this thing working? Is this thing working? Is this thing working? So we're gonna be cooking some food. Cooking food? For some reason, the camera is like messing up. Which one is it? It's like it's like kind of laggy. It's like kind of lagging, so I don't know what's up with that. So we're just gonna leave it on this camera until I actually start cooking on the stove, and then we'll try to do our best with that. So yeah. Okay. So what we're going to be cooking is some shrimp, mussels. I have these already cooked potatoes that I'm just going to throw back in the oven. And then we're going to make some eel sauce, stir-fried baby corn. And we're also going to be reviewing the debate from last night, because it was hilarious. It was a hilarious debate. Eel sauce. Yeah. So first what we're going to do is, so I already have the mussels in a ice water salt bath. So they're soaking in that. And then we're going to strain them, put them back in regular water to get all the salt water off. And we'll do that about 3 times. And simultaneously, I'm also going to be defrosting or thawing my frozen shrimp in some water. So that's the plan so far. And after I get the shrimp starting to defrost and the pan's out, that's when we'll start to review the debate. And I don't think that, I think I might get a strike if I show the visual from the debate. So I think will be, because also I may focus on that too much if we have the visual up from the debate. So I think I'm just going to have it audible for you guys while I'm reviewing it, just to make things easier while I'm trying to show what I'm cooking and everything. Okay, so that's the plan. That's the plan, and that's what we're doing. So I have some jumbo raw shrimp without the tails and everything, and we're going to defrost these. I'm going to do 10 shrimp. And I already told you guys about the potatoes, so we're going to leave those over here, and also the can of the baby corn. So now that we have those prepping, we're going to start reviewing the debate. Okay? Let me make sure I have my audio all set up. Okay. People always say that every time I wear these pants. They are my workout pants, and I am not naked. They are pants. So, yes. Anyways, okay. Let me check this.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive
My headphones are slowly fucking dying.
In American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol.
Espanol.
This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day.
Bing, bing, bing.
There is no studio audience tonight.
Which is so stupid. It's so stupid that they didn't have an audience like the last time that they debated, because they know that it wouldn't look good if they were to have a studio audience. We'll say that.
Props or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left when I became president.
Oh, here we go.
We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All the things was not that serious. Just take a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
If things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now.
Oh my gosh.
We're in a situation
That's a thing. So I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to criticize both. But that's the thing, is a lot of Biden's things that he tries to say, like when someone asks, oh, we have this problem. Why do we have this problem? Why aren't you fixing it? Well, we were left with such, a bad situation by the last president. That's not an excuse for why you haven't fixed those problems. You've had 4 years.
If you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we have a situation where we now we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they conclude beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We get a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we
Everything
never
was
got the credit
rocking
for,
good.
and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation is killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion.
That onion's moldy.
He has a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than
The onion
Herbert
I just
Hoover
saw is
who's had more
moldy.
jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And
This
the next
onion's
thing,
moldy!
when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where
He didn't do anything about that. He did pull the troops out and make people actually be able to make people actually respect our army. He did do that.
you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Like,
Well, okay, yeah, I don't know. Well, besides when he bombed a country, besides when he was funding the Ukraine part of the war and giving them all these weapons and money, and then also how he made us look like complete pussies when he left all of our weapons and a bunch of technology in I think it was Afghanistan. It might have been somewhere else, but I think it was Afghanistan, where he left all these technologies and all of our weapons and made us just look like complete pussies. It was like the worst way to pull anyone out.
like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You
Am I
want
allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like...
Things were a lot cheaper before Biden was in office. I will admit that I do wish that Trump, so far and throughout the rest of it, answered the actual questions that they were asking more precisely. But I will admit that there was a lot more inflation once Biden became in office than when Trump was in office. Even, you know, gas, groceries.
A bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So former President...
That I didn't know. That, when they said that, I didn't know the facts on that. I don't know if anyone can explain that further to me, but at the same time, there was a lot, maybe there was a bigger debt when Trump was president, but also there wasn't so many wars and threats going on. We were taken a lot more seriously. So...
Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were...
That's a tough thing, too, is saying more people died. Like... people in America are constantly dying. I don't really know if we can get exact data and numbers on everyone that died in the United States during either of their terms. Like, maybe we could, but at the same time, do we really know? That's like a hard argument to pinpoint, because... do we really know how many people died? Anyone can say numbers. Or there was even a time where hospitals were giving out false numbers of people that died in their hospital because they would get more money during the COVID relief stuff just so that they could make more money. And those people may not have even died. So that's like a hard thing to argue, to be honest.
In the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about, but he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country.
That I can admit is true.
Leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country.
We're definitely not like a third world nation,
why he
but okay.
allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For
I
example,
agree,
we have
Oxynox.
1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in
Hi,
America.
Ballsack.
And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%.
Oh, I forgot to mention. I wanted to mention. Let me mention. The shirt that I am currently wearing, a very kind viewer, you know who you are, bought this for me off my wish list. And that is the shirt that I'm wearing today. So thank you to the human being who is a very good, awesome supporter that purchased this shirt for me that I'm wearing right now.
25%, either one of those numbers. They've raised $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period.
That's another thing with Biden. Oh, there's multiple times where he's saying numbers that he has to correct himself on, which means he's just throwing things out there. You know? He's just like throwing out numbers, and then he's like, oh, wait, that's not the number that I'm supposed to be saying, and he has to correct himself. There was multiple instances.
Wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting
Oh, wait,
them
was
on
that the part?
Social
Wait, was
Security.
that the hilarious part? Hold on. I missed that because I was watching the chat.
COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if.
Oh my God, what were those sounds? Hold on. We have to listen to that back. Wait a second. Hold on. That was one of the most hilarious parts of the whole thing.
The very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period.
It's second time messing up the numbers.
Wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people.
Oh my gosh, he literally went. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. What was that?
People are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security.
God.
These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us.
So what I'm going to do for the shrimp specifically, we're going to cook it in this pot. Let me see if the camera's working now. Let me try. Okay, so in this pot, we're going to cook the shrimp. We're just going to do spices for the shrimp and cook it in some olive oil. And then in this pan, we're going to be cooking the mussels in some butter, some white wine, garlic, shallot, green onion, some lemon. And you can't see this pot over here, but in this pot we'll be stir frying some baby corn, a can of baby corn. I don't even know if I should do the potatoes. I just want to use them up because they're going to go bad eventually. So that's the plan so far. We're going to start cooking the mussels because they're going to take the longest. So what I'm going to do is add some butter to this pan and then start adding some spices and things like that. Okay?
We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And
what I can completely agree with Trump on is I wish that he gave all the choices back to the people in the states. Like, I obviously have my stance on certain things, but I feel like it's really up to the people that are actually voting for these things to choose. There should be very strict laws federally on all of it, but I feel like it gives all of the people that are voting feel like they're actually doing something or making a change, or, you know, they have an actual choice in changing the things that go on where they live. I obviously don't think that any of it should be going on, but at the same time, I feel like it does make a huge difference when you give each state its choice to do whatever they want to do, because they just feel like they have more power, and it gives them more feeling of responsibility. More people want to vote. More people will just feel like they actually have a say in what goes on in the state that they live in.
what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical, because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states. And
that is fucked if that is true. But at the same time, like, when I see these debates, there's a lot of people who watch this and don't want to they are so into whatever candidate that they want that they will not look into whatever both of these people are saying. I obviously want Trump, but at the same time, if that's true, that there's people who want to do that, that's completely horrendous and they should be jailed or put to death. But I would have to look into the story that he's talking about.
Coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are.
Like, what does that even mean?
The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look,
Do that.
So many young women
like that would actually be cool. Let all of the states choose their own civil rights. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Movement, including a young woman who just was
Hi,
murdered.
Smokey.
And he went to the funeral.
Hi, baby. Baby. He's a baby. He is a little baby. He is so cutie. Are you baby? Okay, I gotta bring him out because usually when he's sitting there and looking at me, he wants to go outside. So I'll be right back. He's a little baby. He wants to go outside. Little baby, want to go outside? Little cutie boy. Little baby boy. Smokey went pee-pees. He's a good boy.
Idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Consider the most.
What I can definitely agree with is that there has been so many more murders recently by illegal immigrants. There was recently a 13-year-old girl who was raped by 3 immigrants and murdered. Mind you, at the Boston Logan Airport, they have migrants sleeping in the airport. They're letting them live there. There's multiple hotels near where I live that they're housing immigrants. You can't even stay in the hotel because they're letting immigrants stay there for free.
Most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the one making decisions on a woman's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch.
Yep.
Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some
Boston,
cases causing real safety and security concerns.
Massachusetts in
Given
general.
that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of
Not true.
asylum officers. Significantly.
You're letting them live everywhere.
Endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their
Oh my gosh.
cages, making sure the families were separated.
He wasn't separating them. The parents were sending strangers with their baby. They were trying to get their babies across the border to the United States so that, they would have a better life or whatever the case may be. A lot of the times, they were letting strangers take these babies. So Trump was taking the babies and sending them back. He wasn't separating them. He was putting the babies back to wherever their parents had sent them from. So he was technically reuniting these children with their parents instead of having them come over the border with strangers that they didn't know.
That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office.
Oh my gosh.
Continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum.
And I will admit, though, obviously not every single immigrant that comes over the border is a bad person. There's give and take. There's obviously people who come over the border illegally that just are a good person and want to have a good life and don't want to be wherever they are living beforehand. But at the same time, if you let just anyone cross and you have no viable explanation of why they're coming over here, where they're from, what they're doing in the country, that's where things start to go bad. There's obviously some people that probably aren't going to do anything. But at the same time, if you don't take the measures to account for every single person that comes through and pay attention to what they're doing while they're in the country, then it's going to get reckless.
Terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
I won't say that, but he says it twice.
Speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything across the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration.
Oh my gosh.
American soldiers. Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
You're lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are
They're asking you the important questions and you just blatantly glaze over it and say, well, back to what we were saying. No. The whole reason for this is we want you to answer the questions. We want to hear exactly what you're going to do. We want to hear these questions answered so that when we vote for you, we know exactly what your plan is. And if you don't follow through, then we're all going to be pissed and call you out for it.
al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it.
Out of spite, out of spite.
But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie.
Oh, my God.
Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers.
Oh,
my son
my
is not
gosh.
a loser, is not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Oh, my gosh.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified.
Why would Trump say that to Biden?
19 people
Honestly.
that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to
To the topic of foreign policy, I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine.
That's so silly about the person saying that I'm super young looking. Thank you so much. I hear this often. I also hear the opposite. But thank you for keeping the dream alive that I appear to be very young. I appreciate that.
Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
Yes, Femboy, I'm about to caramelize these shallots, green onion, and garlic before I put the mussels into here to cook. And then once they are in there, I will be spicing them, adding lemon and some white wine. That is the plan. We're just adding all that butter. Fuck it. You know what? Fuck it. Actually, wait, no, we're gonna grab a little bit of this butter and put it for the shrimp instead of olive oil.
Year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief,
Okay.
if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream.
I agree. That's definitely the problem with 50% of the answers that they gave were they did not focus on the questions being asked. They focused on attacking each other, which they've done for so long. It's like, we just want to know exactly what you're going to do. We're asking you the right questions, and we want to hear exactly what your plans are for everything. Hi, Remy.
Talk to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
Oh my gosh, don't bring out the word malarkey,
Let's
brah.
take the last point first.
Don't say
Iran
freaking
attacked
malarkey.
American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want.
Malarkey. Freaking malarkey.
And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. Wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he let everybody...
Remy gifted subs? Wait. Hold on. Let me go to Twitch. Why didn't I get the notification? Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Yo, Remy, thank you for the gifted subs. I very much appreciate that. Thank you. Wait, what? Why do I have so many notifications on Twitch? Hold on. Gotta check the notifications. Alrighty, there we go. Okay. Thank you, Remy.
along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll...
Hold on, what did someone say? Hey, why is it always young men coming across the border? Shouldn't they be the top dogs in their own nation? I don't really have an answer for that question. I don't know what you're trying to ask me.
I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages.
There's a barnacle on this
Among
one.
those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden,
there's a barnacle on this one.
A proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So
you want to get all the barnacles off.
Will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding the only thing I've denied Israel.
You want to get all the seaweed and
they don't work very well in populated areas.
You want to get all the seaweed and any barnacles or corals, whatever. No, I think it's barnacles. off of the mussels before you start cooking them.
They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one.
We're adding a little bit of ginger beer.
And it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and intelligence people to how we can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. We don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people.
I think the brand is oh, what's her name? The one with the raspy voice, and she looks like Kelly Clarkson. What's her name? She looks like Kelly Clarkson. Rachel Ray. I think it's Rachel Ray's pot set.
Put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but
I'm going to cover this up so we don't lose any of the liquid while we saute these.
What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland.
It's cooking, you silly person. Look it. It's bubbling, you silly. You can't cook it too high because then it'll burn. You want the vegetables to sweat, not to burn. So I have it on like about medium, just about medium.
In other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained.
World peace? You are trying to work towards world peace?
To Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up.
Stop.
Would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that...
Oh my gosh! We're giving you the freaking questions that we want answered, and you guys are just going back and forth with each other. Oh, let me go after him. I need to say no. I disagree. We know you all disagree. We know that. This is your chance to be answering questions that are being asked that people care about. Not to say, well, I gotta go back because I don't agree. We know you don't fucking agree with each other.
The problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with European nations. Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. He asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
And billions.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States?
We're like a bunch of stupid people,
under this
guys.
man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say.
Oh my gosh, what did he just say?
No, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one.
Oh my
I
gosh.
sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is.
What the fuck?
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people. Well, that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota.
No, that's the truth, though, that there was so many riots when Biden was president. Has been so many riots that nobody stopped but then they always go back to January 6th. Nobody remembers when they were burning buildings down and it was just complete chaos, but they always remember January 6th.
Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately.
Whoa.
What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The unselected
I turned it down
committee,
a little.
which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats. They destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop.
I'm
what was
adding a
going
little
on
bit of white
up
cooking
in Capitol
wine
Hill.
to
And
cook
all those
down.
people, every one of those who were convicted, was turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, the debates we had the first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by.
The Proud Boy?
The idea he's refusing.
The one Proud
Will
Boy?
we denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a
Will you denounce the Proud Boy? The Proud Boy.
minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor.
I don't know if we should keep going with this. I feel like I've said most of my piece. You guys know my opinions if you've ever watched my stream where I talk about my opinions. I just think that Trump could have done a lot more to swing people if they weren't just doing this back and forth where they're like, oh, well, I'm going to say why I disagree with what you just said and why you're wrong. No, I'm going to say why you're wrong. No, you're this. No. And like, instead of doing what he could to answer these questions that would have helped him in a lot of instances, he just chose to say, well, you're wrong. And then he would go, well, you're wrong. And, you know, it's just, it could have been a lot better. So, okay. So I think we're going to stop watching this. You know, it was good for a while, but we know if you watch the rest of it, there was like another 45 minutes of them just going, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. So, yeah. So that was fun while it lasted. So now we cook. So we're cooking down this butter, wine, and aromatics. And soon we will be adding the mussels to it. Really quick, I have to go pee, so I'll be right back. I will be right back. I'm in fact back. Okay, so this is looking good. We're going to add the mussels to this now. So I have this bowl of the mussels. Let me do this. Hold on. I'm gonna make my camera small for a second while I show you guys me adding them. So you want to check every one that you're putting in to make sure that it is not opened, because if it is already open, that means it's dead and you do not want to be eating those. So we check them all. I dropped it. This is a big mussel. Oh! Ew, hold on. I thought I rinsed these enough. This water's still murky. The rest I'm gonna rinse again. Give me a second. The water's murky! Okay, I think that's a little bit better. And my trick with the mussels is I don't season them until they're already starting to open, because they will just taste nothing like the spices. If you put in the spices now, it'll just be on the shell, and you're technically kind of wasting the spices. So that's just my personal opinion. So this is 2 pounds of mussels. So we have those going. Okay? So now I'll open this up a little bit more. I think we're going to switch these to this side because it'll be easier to see the shrimp while I'm cooking them if we switch them. So I'm putting this back to medium. I'm going to cover them back up until they start to open more. And then we're going to put this here. And we're going to start melting that butter to put the shrimp into. And I'm going to fix this. Or I'm going to try at least. I have to fix it. Hold on. Yeah, you'll be able to see, sort of, me cooking these over here. Okay, so we are going to be melting that butter, and then in this pan, we're going to take some vegetable oil. We're going to stir fry this can of baby corn and then the rest of the tomatoes that I have as like the vegetable dish. So that is the plan. Yeah, and stuff. So let me go get the vegetable oil to start stir frying the vegetables. No, actually, I guess I can use olive oil. It's not a big deal. I don't really need to fully stir fry them. I just need to cook them a little bit with the sauce that I want to use. So we're just putting a tiny bit of olive oil in there. And so the spices for the shrimp I'm going to use are paprika, Lowry's seasoned salt. I was going to use this, but I changed my mind. Onion powder, fresh ground black pepper, and salt. And then for the mussels, I'm going to use onion powder, black pepper, lemon pepper, crushed red pepper, and sea salt. So that is the plan. That is the plan. I guess you can't really see this pan, but that's fine. Okay, so the butter is just about melted. These are starting to open up a little bit. So the back one I'm going to put on 4. And then this pan that you can't actually fucking see because I didn't put it in the right spot. Ah. No. Go this way. No, it's not working. That's the best I can do. But now, darn it. We're just going to focus on these 2 pans. Who cares about the other one? Yeah. So I'm opening the can of the baby corn. So those are drained. These are starting to open a little bit. I'm going to place the shrimp in the pan and start to season them. And I'm just going to season them on one side because sometimes they can be too seasoned, like over seasoned, and it's just, it takes away from the shrimp flavor. And so this other pan that you can't see, I'm going to put on about low to medium. These are starting to open nicely. For now, I'm just going to add some Mediterranean sea salt to the mussels. And I'm going to add just regular salt to the shrimp. Just a tiny, tiny bit. That's good. So these mussels, we're going to try to stir to get the salt evenly distributed. like that. I'm also going to start adding the other spices to these lovely mussels and this lovely shrimp. So the shrimp, I'm going to take a very tiny pinch of paprika and just sprinkle it onto each of the shrimp. People mistake paprika for being spicy, but it is not. It just adds a smoky flavor without the heat of an actual spice. And it just adds some good color to whatever you're putting it on. So we added the paprika. I'm actually going to just throw a tiny bit of paprika in with the mussels also. Just like that. This oil is heating up nicely, so I'm going to start adding, I think actually we'll do the tomatoes raw. I'll just add the corn to this other pot that you guys can't see. Just like that. Now to the shrimp, we're going to add some Lowry's seasoned salt. And to both, we're going to be adding some fresh ground black pepper. Just like that. To both, we're adding some onion powder. Like that. To the mussels, we're going to be adding some lemon pepper. And some crushed red pepper. And I wish I had garlic salt, but unfortunately I do not. And then the last thing we're going to add to the mussels is a squeezed lemon. Thanks, Nozons. Okay. I just got lemon juice everywhere, but it's fine. So we're adding this lemon juice. Just like that. I think I'm going to add a little bit more sea salt to both. So now I'm going to stir all the seasonings into these mussels while they're finishing off cooking. And we're going to leave the lid off for some of this liquid to evaporate or get cooked down at least. And then the shrimp, we're just going to flip each shrimp. We don't want them overcooked or undercooked, obviously, but you can actually eat shrimp raw if you really want to, but we're cooking up this baby corn. Okay. So now to this baby corn, I'm going to add my homemade eel sauce that I made the last time that I did a cooking stream. Just enough to coat each of the baby corn. Perfect. Alrighty, we're gonna stir the baby corn with just a wooden spoon, and we're gonna keep cooking up these baby corns with the lid on till they're heated up. So everything is almost done now. Yeah. Just trying to make sure all these have opened. Looks like they're all open pretty much. Okay. The shrimp I'm going to shut off because we don't want to overcook them. I am going to try one of them. Ooh, just kidding, they're too hot. But we're going to shut off the shrimp because they are cooked enough. We're actually going to shut off these mussels also. And what else? The corn, the baby corn is still heating up. Yeah. Rice would be good with this. I've been trying to have the least amount of starch, or I've been sticking away from bread, pasta, things like that. I just want things that have lots of vitamins, or you know, things that are more healthy. I just feel like bread and pasta are just carbs that we essentially eat to feel full, which is unnecessary. So yeah. So I've been not eating those. Okay, well, that is about it for the stream. I'm gonna go eat this, and yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it for today. But I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry I didn't finish going over the debate. It just seemed tedious because I told you guys the problems that I had with it. So yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go eat this, and I hope you all have a great night, and thank you for watching. Okay, bye. Oh, I'll go full screen first. Hold on. Bye. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day or night or whatever time it is wherever you are. And thank you. I might be back later to do a gaming stream. We'll see. Okay, love you. Bye.